In the digital Wild West of cryptocurrency, one coin promised stability, an anchor in a sea of volatility. It's called Tether or USDT. On the surface, it's simple. For every one Tether coin issued, there is $1 held in a bank account somewhere, a digital dollar. It's a bedrock of a multi-trillion-dollar market. Billions of dollars in Tether flow through the crypto ecosystem every single day, oiling the gears of exchanges, enabling traders to move in and out of positions in seconds. It's the currency of crypto. But what if the bedrock was made of sand? What if the anchor wasn't tied to anything at all? This is the story of a stablecoin that holds the crypto world together, or is quietly holding it hostage. The year is 2017. The world is gripped by Bitcoin fever. This promise was managed by a small, elusive group of executives, figures who seemed to operate from the shadows. There was Giancarlo Devasine, a former plastic surgeon from Italy, now the CFO of the crypto exchange Bitfinex, an exchange that shared more than just an office building with Tether. And there was the CEO J.L. van der Velde, a man so private he was practically a ghost, rarely seen or heard from in public. They were the custodians of the vault, the guardians of the dollars that supposedly backed the billions of tethers being minted at an astonishing rate. Trust us, they said. The money is there. But as investigators and journalists began to pull at the threads, the entire fabric of that trust began to unravel. The core of the investigation was a simple, yet profoundly difficult question. Could Tether prove it? Could they show the world the bank accounts, the audited statements, the proof that the billions of dollars they claimed to have actually existed? For years, the answer was a deafening silence, punctuated by vague assurances and promises of audits that never materialized. The company cycled through accounting firms, none of whom would sign off on a full official audit. Instead, they offered attestations and transparency reports that were carefully worded to say very little. They showed balances on a specific day, but they didn't show where the money came from or where it went the day after. Then came the Bitfinex connection. In 2018, the New York Attorney General dropped a bombshell. The investigation revealed that Bitfinex, Tether's sister company, had lost access to a staggering $850 million of commingled client and corporate funds. The money was held by a shadowy Panamanian payment processor called Crypto Capital Corp., whose operators would later be indicted on charges of bank fraud. With a massive hole in its balance sheet and facing a liquidity crisis, where did Bitfinex turn? To Tether. In a move that shocked the industry, Tether secretly extended a line of credit to Bitfinex, transferring hundreds of millions of dollars from its own reserves, the very reserves that were supposed to be backing USD2, plug the gap. This wasn't a loan between two independent companies. Documents revealed they were both controlled by the same handful of individuals. The digital dollar, the stable anchor of the crypto world, was being used to bail out a sister company that had lost customer funds. The line between Tether's reserves and Bitfinex's operating capital had been completely erased. The money wasn't just backing Tether. It was being used for whatever its secretive executives deemed necessary. The stablecoin was anything but stable. It was a private slush fund, and the entire crypto market was unknowingly built on top of it. The promise of a $1-to-1 backing was, at that moment, a verifiable lie. With this new context, the 2017 bull run looked different. Not just a mania, but a potential manipulation. A landmark academic paper by John Griffin and Amin Shams laid out the chilling hypothesis. They analyzed blockchain data and found a stunning pattern. Nearly half of Bitcoin's price increase in 2017 could be traced back to flows from a single source. Time and again, as Bitcoin's price dipped, huge batches of new Tether would be minted and sent to the Bitfinex exchange, followed almost immediately by a surge in Bitcoin buying that pushed the price back up. It was as if a mysterious, deep-pocketed buyer was single-handedly propping up the market. The study alleged that this wasn't real demand. It was Tether, printed out of thin air and unbacked by real dollars at the time, being used to buy Bitcoin and artificially inflate its price. The mechanism was simple, but devastatingly effective. Print Tether, send it to an exchange, buy Bitcoin. The price of Bitcoin goes up. This creates FOMO, fear of missing out, drawing in real investors with real money. The manipulators could then sell their inflated Bitcoin for real dollars, leaving everyone else holding the bag when the bubble inevitably popped. It was a classic pump-and-dump scheme, but on a scale the world had never seen before. orchestrated with a currency that was supposed to be the market's safeguard. The reaction from Tether and Bitfinex was a case study in corporate stonewalling. Instead of providing definitive proof to refute the claims like a long-promised, comprehensive audit, they launched a war on the media and their critics. They dismissed the academic paper as foundationally flawed in an attempt to discredit the community. They called journalists mercenaries and engaged in bizarre, aggressive tirades on social media. Their lawyers sent threatening letters to critics, attempting to silence dissent rather than address the substance of the allegations. The executives Giancarlo Devicine and J.L. van der Velde remained almost entirely silent. They were phantoms, their digital footprints carefully managed, their voices absent from the raging debate about the integrity of their multi-billion-dollar enterprise. This terrifying silence from the men in charge was more damning than any accusation. In a crisis of trust, their response was not transparency, but intimidation and evasion. They acted less like the stewards of a global financial utility and more like men with something to hide. When money is no longer backed by gold or the full faith and credit of a government, it is backed by only two things: trust and power. The story of Tether is a masterclass in how these two forces can be wielded. Tether's power grew not from transparency, but from its indispensability. It became so deeply embedded in the crypto market's infrastructure that it was too big to fail. Exchanges needed its liquidity. Traders needed its speed. The entire system became dependent on it, forcing millions of people to trust it, whether they wanted to or not. It was a forced trust, born of necessity. The risk was socialized. Everyone in crypto would pay the price if Tether collapsed, while the profits and control remained centralized in the hands of a few unaccountable individuals. This created a powerful psychological dynamic. Many within the crypto community chose to believe in Tether because the alternative was unthinkable. To admit Tether was a house of cards was to admit the entire market, including their own investments, was standing on a foundation of sand. It was a collective delusion, a willful suspension of disbelief driven by financial self-interest. They attacked the critics, calling it FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt, not because the claims were baseless, but because the truth was too terrifying to confront. The lesson from the Tether Enigma is a timeless one. It's a warning against centralized power hiding behind the banner of decentralization. It's a reminder to always question, to always demand proof, to don't trust, verify, in any system, financial or otherwise. You must understand where the leverage points are and who controls them. Tether proved that even in the futuristic world of crypto, the oldest dangers persist. The concentration of power, the lack of transparency, and the human tendency to believe in a beautiful lie when the truth is costly. While Tether has since survived multiple market crashes and even changed its disclosure policies to claim backing by commercial paper and other assets, not just cash, the original sin remains. The fundamental questions about its integrity and the opaque nature of its operations have never been fully answered. And as long as the cornerstone of the crypto market is an enigma, the entire structure remains perpetually at risk, waiting for a single gust of wind to bring it all tumbling down.